What's up, Squadron? Aviation has given me a ton of amazing experiences.
Good job there. Nice rock, high wing.
But more importantly, it's introduced me to a whole new family of friends.
Like, dude, you're killing it. You're having a great day.
So just never give up.
Airport, and then, oh, by the way, I got carb ice while I was flying through, so the engine started running rough, and I had to
Join us tonight as we're cleared direct for some hangar flying. I am Bryan Dembroski, and this is SuperAero Live.
That's a lot. I mean, a lot of cookies. What's up, Av Geeks? It's Wednesday, which can only mean one thing. It's time for another episode of SuperAero Live. And one quick warning about tonight is in Wisconsin right now, we have 65 to 70 mile an hour winds going on upstairs above us. So if I just disappear, that's what happened. The power went out. I don't have like a big generator and like Starlink or whatever to keep me going yet. So thank you so much for joining tonight. Hopefully the power will stay on and we'll get to hang out tonight. Let's say hi to some people in the chat before we get started. Zachary Sherman. Great to have you back. He's been missing a couple of shows because he's got real-life obligations. Red Baron Modeling's here. Muhammad. Hey, Muhammad. I don't know if I've seen you in the chat before. Good to meet you. Brad Bloom is here. Clayton's here. 782 Pop is here. He's got a RV6, so he's got to show up for a home-built night. James Hyatt is here. Waukesha Pilot says he's here. We can start now. I see something happening in the chat I wanted to address real quick, which is that obviously there's been some crazy weather across the United States. Those tornadoes from, was it a week ago? A couple days ago, a week ago now. And actually, I found out that a couple people that are SuperAero patrons did have their aircraft damaged. Luckily, it sounds like everyone's okay. And I just wanted to say, like, man, what a hard time of year to have that sort of stuff happen. All the loss of life and all that stuff. It's just a lot. This year and last year, it's just the gift that keeps on giving. So I hope as we head into the holidays that everyone's taking stock of what you have and what's important and taking care of each other. So I'll take care of each other. So anyway, just sorry to hear that. I don't want to say too much because of confidentiality and stuff, but if you're watching this and you had some stuff like that happen, I just want to let you know that we see you and we're sorry, and let us know how we can help. Okay, so that's the Freedom Fixer's here. Gary Smith's here. Everyone is, Scarface is here, I think, I saw. Canyon is here. The gang is all here. I hope you're pumped because we have a returning guest tonight. I want to put him on the screen here. Bryan Walstrom from the Experimental Aircraft Channel is here. What's up, buddy?
Hey, good to see you again.
It's great to see you. Oh, go ahead.
I just saw you down in Lakeland about a week or so ago.
That's right. Yeah, so here's the thing. I was going to update everybody. So you and I have been seeing a lot of each other the last year because we've run into each other in Lakeland a couple times. We hung out at Sun and Fun. We hung out at the most recent, the Holiday Flying Festival thing for the Central Florida Classic. You were there. We got to hang out there. And then I think I saw you at Swamp Stoll too, right? You were kind of following the National Stoll circuit.
Yeah, I kind of followed them around for about a year while they were on tour, and I think I only missed one. That was right after Wisconsin because of Brainerd. Was it Brainerd? Because it was a week after Wisconsin. I was all the way away from Florida. I was like, what am I going to do for a week? You guys are going to go fly around and go to,
right,
all these different places. And anyway, so I missed that one.
I missed that one too, so it's okay. And did we see each other at Oshkosh or no? Did we miss each other at Oshkosh after all that bromance? We missed each other at Oshkosh.
I think it's your hometown. I mean, your hometown.
Yeah, I know. I was right there.
Speaking of Oshkosh, are you just simply making an excuse for noise of wind with your kids upstairs? Is that what you're doing, making excuses, or is that just Oshkosh weather? Because I remember Oshkosh 2021, and there was a tornado approaching, and it was a record number of aircraft on the ground, right? So is that just
it was a big deal. People were putting like furniture pads and stuff on their aircraft, and flying
Yes,
them out
bubble,
and stuff.
Bubble wrap. Bubble
wrap and all that stuff. So this show, I'm so excited to have you on, and the reason is this show, you and I were hanging out in Lakeland a couple weeks ago, and we were having a conversation just about like everything that's happened in experimental aviation this past year, and we were having this like super nerdy conversation. I was like, you know what? You should come on the show again, and we should just talk about everything that happened this year. So I'm excited to dig it in with you. Before I do, I want to say thank you too. People got to know a little bit about Bryan. Bryan is an evangelist when it comes to experimental aviation, in case you didn't know, experimental aircraft in particular, obviously. And we were wrapping up the Saturday night party in Lakeland, and Andy Ovens, guy who's been on the show previously, was there, and he had his Zenith nearby, and he was like, oh, you want to go see the Zenith? I'm like, nah, like, we're all tired, let's go home. And Bryan's like, Ryan, have you ever sat in a Zenith before? And I was like, no. And he's like, come on, we're doing it. And I
mean, you're right there. It's just a short walk.
We walked for size. We walked across the street. Literally, it was that close, and I got to sit in a Zenith for the first time, and I liked it. It was nice.
And it didn't fall because, well, remember that's more inside.
I don't know. I don't know. We're allowed to talk about that. What you're saying is I'm a larger guy,
and it didn't. I was holding the tail
gear.
up.
No,
yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. So, okay, so let's talk. I wanted to ask you. So, a lot of big stuff has happened in experimental aviation this year. And I have my own thoughts of what I'm excited by seeing, but you follow this stuff a little bit more closely. So I'm curious, like, if you were to what's the number one thing this year? And by the way, sorry, we're skipping all the who are you, where are you from? Because you've been on the show before.
Yeah,
so like people can go
up to speed.
Yeah, everyone go watch that after this. You can get a call on Bryan. Bryan, by the way, man, I'm all over the place tonight. Your channel has like doubled in viewership and subscribers since you were on this show last time. You're almost at like 100,000, man.
We're getting there. We are quickly approaching. We're knocking on the door.
I would like to say that is mostly me.
Yes, you have been a huge help, and your fan base has been a huge help. And I do appreciate you and everybody watching, because that's what makes my world go round.
Yeah, no, but seriously though, congratulations on the growth, and super awesome to see you, just getting the word out. So anyway, sorry, a little digression, but if you want to learn more about Bryan and the channel, he was on this show before. We did a whole thing. We learned about how he started home building at a younger age than most. He was like welding stuff. He learned to fly, all that stuff. We went over all that cool stuff. So go check that out after tonight. If you want to stay up a little bit later, check that out. You can learn all about kind of the beginnings of your aircraft journey.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
So to answer your question about...
sorry, go ahead.
Let's call this like a year in review for aviation. What's been going on, what's big. If I were to kind of summarize or total up the biggest announcement, which you've talked to a couple people already and interviewed people, has to be the Vans aircraft release. They are going to build something other than their typical low wing that they've been doing since the infancy of their company. I was kind of poking at Greg Hughes for quite a while too, for the past 2 years, saying, there's got to be something next. What's next, right? You keep on growing these numbers with the Vans fleet. What is the RV-15? And to me, it was a no-brainer that they announced that they're going with a high wing, just because the market is so strong for that. And if you think and consider of their demographic, which is typically an older demographic, because they've got time and money. But if you think about that demographic of having to step up onto a wing, we've talked about this before, and then down into kind of a bathtub, if you will, airframe, that's a lot of physical stress on knees and hips and shoulder, all that kind of stuff. So to me, it was a no-brainer, but I was still very surprised to learn that they are in fact working on that very project. So I think as a headliner for 2021 in the experimental world, Van's aircraft first, and then right on the heels of that, you'd almost want to say, like, were they just trying to catch their fire, but I actually saw the plans, or at least glimpses, and then they shared it too. Sonex is also working on a high wing, and that was all kind of found out during the last Oshkosh flying.
So before we dive into Sonex, I'm just curious about, I think what you said about the RV-15 makes a lot of sense in terms of, like, it matches the demographic. And I agree with you that, like, the market, like, bush flying is hot right now, right? Like, certainly, like, National STOL is a thing, whatever. I want, you mentioned you talked to Greg a lot. I had Greg on the show a couple months ago, and we, like, battered him, and he was so tight-lipped. Like, all we know is it's basically a high wing and, like, bush capable, right?
Right.
So I don't know.
It's a high wing, and you could quite possibly put bush wheels on it if you wanted to, right?
Right. You'll look good riding your one wheel up to it.
Yeah.
So before we switch to Sonex, because the Sonex was the RV-15 to me I think was surprising because there's Greg actually one time came into one of the Zoom after shows. Patreon supporters, we get to hang out on Zoom after the show and talk smart about airplanes for a couple hours. Greg showed up to one of those, and he asked everyone, "What do you think the RV-15 is going to be?" And everyone made all these joke answers, right? They're like, "Oh, it's going to be a jet. It's going to be a twin. It's going to be a 6-passenger. It's going to, like, whatever, right?" But I said to him, foolishly, I said, "I know what it's not going to be." And he's like, "Oh, what's that?" I was like, "Well, it's not going to be a high wing because the brand of Van's aircraft is low wings." And he was like, "Huh, that's very interesting." Obviously, I was way off the mark. But
right.
Do you have any? I mean, that upset the industry. Your personal take on it, like, do you have any thoughts on what we might see as you have your fingers to the pulse on that one?
On the Vans?
Yeah. I mean, other than what the high wing bush plane.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like they're going to stick to what they know best, right? And it's having a very broad. My hands in frame here. A very broad envelope to fly in, right? I mean, Vans from the very get-go with his RV3 and then RV4 and all the progression, he flew off a little farm strip, and he wanted to make aviation very accessible to many people to be able to have that at your little farm strip if you so chose to do that. So the envelope of being able to fly all the way down into the 40s and have a V&E past 200 miles per hour, and with a big enough engine get to that mark, I can only assume that they're going to try to stay within that envelope for the high wing as well. Maybe be a little bit low end of the envelope, more capable there. I'm not sure if they're going to do a little bit of a trade-off or not on that, but so that's where I'm kind of curious of where they're going to slide the rule, if you will, the envelope of more towards the STOL, or to keep it broader for the high speed, because a Van's aircraft is 200 mile an hour capable. That's firewalled, but it's 200 mile an hour capable. So it'll be interesting to see the look of it. Is it going to be the fuselage itself? Will it be basically the same, just some additional structure to attach a wing on the top? Will it be cantilever? I'm kind of guessing yes. I don't know if he told you that in the interview or not, but I hadn't caught on if it was going to be cantilever wing or not. I assume it would be.
I mean, he didn't mention it. I would be surprised if it's not, because that's their thing. But also, if you if you cantilever it, and it's like we look at pipistrel, obviously different technique with the composites and stuff. But when you sit in a pipistrel, there's that. Wow, it's really hard to do this with your hands. Like there's
right?
there's the spar, like right by your head, right? Like depending how tall you are. So maybe they won't. Who knows?
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. And I don't know when they're going to release even some teaser drawings of that, but I would assume that they need to do that by next Oshkosh or Sun Fun. At least have something. You can't come to market and say we're going to do this and then just not do anything, because then it just seems like you're kind of blowing smoke, right? So I would assume very early on in 2022 we're going to at least get some conceptual images of what's going on there.
We will make it. I'm gonna just email Greg a bunch. You email Greg, and then we'll single-handedly bust.
We'll just dogpile him. We'll just dogpile him. Yeah.
We'll scoop it. Okay, so here's the interesting thing, right? Van says, "Boom, RV-15, it's happening." All the fanboys and girls go, whoa, my mind is blown. High wing, and then what you brought up next was the Sonex high wing. And I always say this, I have a special place in my heart for Sonex because I am from Wisconsin and they're a Wisconsin company. And I love personally, and I got to get them on the show, I love personally the mission, the idea of making it accessible for everybody and being real and not, being really honest about the kind of flying you're going to do. If you're just going to go punch holes in the sky, a Sonex, that's like their brand, right? So you know way more about this than I do. I saw the drawings that they released, thought they were pretty cool. I'm going to load this up. Let's see if this works. I'm going to load up a video for you to chat over. Oh, look at here. Wait, here we go. We're going to do it. Technology. We're trying something new. Here. Just vamping. Boom. There you are.
It's my best angle right there.
There you
go.
go.
Best angle.
And we just hit play on this so we can talk about it. There it is in the corner there. You can kind of see the
Whitman tailwind-ish.
Yeah.
As Mark described it, Whitman tailwind-ish type of profile to it. But yeah, I mean, so obviously there's a connection there that they have with that aircraft to kind of follow those lines of the Whitman tailwind. It's comes from the racing era, if you will, and Sonex has kind of a racing background. I think with the Sonex B that they now are producing, they've gone away with the A model, the legacy model, and now producing the B. I believe that they themselves have realized that they need to come to market with options for people because the Volkswagen just isn't enough. It's not enough of an engine for people. It's stated at about 80 horsepower. Some say it's closer to 70, 72. There's plenty of people that are still flying the Volkswagen and doing very well behind it. And now the Sonex B model, they give you options of UL power, Rotax, and Jabiru. So I can assume that moving forward with the high wing, all those options and possibly more will be available. And I think that's going to be a really good thing for them moving forward because people like options. And I think we've talked before in the past interview that engines are a little bit like a religion or a sports team. When we're talking about experimental aviation, people grab onto one and make a decision, which is a hard decision. They latch onto it, and then they will defend it to their death, to the teeth. I mean, they just really, really latch onto it. So it's kind of funny that how passionate people become about their engine.
So one thing I wanted to point out that was interesting is Sonex didn't. What was interesting to me was that they came back and said this aircraft, which I love that we're, they've got the renders out, right? It definitely follows the Sonex design language. Like it's kind of what I imagined a Sonex would look like if it were a high wing. But they've said that it's not like hardcore bush plane, and it almost is a way to differentiate it, right? It is more tailwindy than what Vans is talking about with like a backcountry capable plane. This is more about maybe a high wing cross country ish plane, or
yeah. I don't think they're going after the STOL market with this. I mean, I guess somebody could, or anybody could put big tires on something, but the suspension probably isn't there for rough. I mean, you can still land on grass, of course, But I think they just want to give another option for people to slide their butt into the seat versus stepping up into a wing and down to a bathtub. So I think that's kind of where, again, let's talk about and think about the demographic. I'm not saying that older people can't fly low wing aircraft. I'm not saying that, but just a matter of physics and biology here of your getting in and out of an airplane. I think that's what they're wanting to go after. Plus, it's something different. I haven't seen the numbers, but if you were look at people that are buying high wing or low wing, I would think that they would gravitate more towards the high wing, as far as record sales of things.
That's a really interesting thought too, because I feel like in my circles, high wing, like maybe it's just because this is maybe a separate conversation. Like when you are a young pilot, not young in age, but young in experience, almost everything you're flying, unless you're, I guess, training in like a Piper, like traditionally you're flying a high wing, right? A lot of people train in high wings. So it feels like people just go to the low wing next because it's like different than the training plane. I don't know if that's actually real, but
yeah, it's hard to say because honestly, the majority of my time was in a Cessna, but the flight school also had a Warrior and an Archer, and so I actually got a good amount of time in both. So they were both available to me. Now, nowadays, the modern flight school I think has quite a few of these SLSAs, and which are typically, for whatever reason, low wing. And then I think, did you do some flight training in the Cirrus? Cirrus has gotten a little bit popular for some. No, not you.
No, I've never flown in a Cirrus. Although Al Waterloo,
a Diamond, was it a Diamond?
No, I sat in a Diamond once. It felt very like, well, the Diamond felt very luxurious. The one I said, I gotta say, we'll call it though. Al Waterloo, who's on the show, works for sales for Cirrus. He did say he was gonna give me a ride in one, and Al, let's figure that. We've been texting back, well, like Instagramming. I slid into his DMs and I said, Al, let's get this done. I would still like to get that done. Hager Tales is in the chat. He says about the high wing, low wing. He says, when you are flying, do you want to sit in the shade or in the sunshine?
There you go. There you go.
Exactly. So I mean, prediction. I guess before we close out the Sonex thing, I mean, interesting that they're coming out with a high wing design. For people who haven't, I mean, I haven't had them on the show yet. We're talking about it. What's kind of interesting about the Sonex is it's almost diametrically opposed to the Vans in terms of like proposition, right? The Vans is solid riveted, take a long time to make or to build, right? It's a different kind of plane. Typically higher speeds. I think, I don't know if I'm actually totally right on that. And then you've got the Sonex, which is about really getting in affordably. They have the VW engine you mentioned, that the Aero V, and they're more pop riveted, right? Blind rivet, pulling rivets, go together much more quickly. But again, not the same level of performance. It's a different part of the market. I think you could build, for a while there, I don't know if you still can, you could build a Sonex for like, finished for like 30 grand. I don't know if that's still accurate. For a long time, it was like nothing, like cheaper than my minivan.
Yeah, I saw ads as I think $25,000 or $27,000 for ready to fly. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Whether Sonex wants to say it or not, there's probably two ends of the spectrum where a Vans aircraft, 200 miles per hour. These are like 8,000, 7,500 feet altitude specs that we're talking about here across the board. But still, they're running about 180 horsepower, 200 horsepower engine to get there. Sonex is trying to stay at the lower levels of 80 to 100 horsepower. It's a scaled down, let's say version of that for a Sonex. The cabin width is shoulder to shoulder. You're a lot more comfortable. In a Van Sonex, as you've seen in past, that you almost have to be staggered. Just overall, it's a scaled down aircraft, both in size and horsepower, ratings. And I think they want to stay there. Which, once you jump above, let's say 120, 130 horsepower, that changes a lot of things for cost of build, especially with engines. 180 horsepower engine is pushing $36,000 to $45,000 depending on options, just the engine alone. And then, as Sonex is advertising, you can have a complete flying airplane for the price of one engine that you would stick in that Vans, right? So I think they're probably gonna stick with that. But ironically enough, if you're just comparing apples to apples in price points, you look at what your dollar buys you, and just the initial airframe. I'm not talking about the complete package of a flying airplane, but you look at the airframe purchase, and they're within a couple $1,000s of each other, right? A 200-mile-an-hour airplane capable, a airplane that's capable of carrying you and I and full fuel, no problem, for the same airframe price as a Sonex that is not a true 200-mile-an-hour airplane in cruise. You and I would have a bit more difficulty fitting in. We get even closer. Bromance would expand and grow flying that type of aircraft.
Be sweating on each other.
That's pretty tough.
I mean, I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome that they're both doing it. I think you're absolutely right. Like the two totally different segments of the market, and also two totally different skill sets. Not totally right, but like different skills being applied within the sheet metal like genre of home building. The other thing that was in the hangar when we were with Andy Ovens was a 1X, and I'd never seen one of those other than an Oshkosh, and we kind of like poked around it a little bit, and that was bigger than I thought it would be also. Like it's like
for a single seat,
right.
For a single seat, it looks a lot roomier. Of course, you could fly the normal Legacy Sonex as a single seat too. Some people have done that. I've heard people like sitting in the middle and then putting one foot on the left pedal and 1 foot on the far right pedal and just kind of straddling the airplane.
I don't want to make this too much of a Sonex love fest, but Sonex, come on the show. Let's talk more about. I'm rooting for Wisconsin. I'm rooting for Sonex. I'm rooting for Dark Arrow. I think that's it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I want one. That's like on my short list of the next plane because I think I want to build a low wing next. It needs to be either open cockpit and breezy and fun, or it needs to be fast. Because the Zenith
for people, I was gonna say people don't know you're building a Zenith.
Fast. That's right. It's gonna be fun, but it's not gonna be fast.
You said a word in there. You said breezy, and maybe that's what's on your list next.
No. A breezy will not be on my list. I think it's a cool design. I love that it's like a purist type thing. But after seeing it this close, the breezy is not for me. I mean, just open cockpit. I love old style aircraft and cars, and I think it'd be awesome to do an open cockpit next and have that, the goggles, the silk scarf, the whole Snoopy, everything. I think that would be a fun aircraft to have.
Build a hats. There's a 72 Papa in the chat, or a spacewalker, or a flybaby. Yeah, but sorry, we're supposed to be this is supposed to be the year in review, and you and I rattled off like 10 like vintage home built designs. What's next on your list? So we Vans RV-15, no question, upsetting the apple cart there. High wing Sonex, again, totally new, unexpected thing. I didn't think they were going to do that. To wrap up that conversation, they got the jet, they got the 2-seat jet they're working on. I was like, they're going to just keep going jets. Like, they're just going to go hardcore jets. So the high wing surprised me. What's next?
As far as interesting things that are coming here, I heard that Zlin, with the Zlin Norden, and they've been pushing that, over in Europe now for a while and teasing us. I heard that one actually landed stateside. We have one over here now, and
so that's this one.
Yeah, it's yet another Cub. Let me just state that in quotes. It's yet another Cub because we have so many Cubs in the market right now. Do we need another one? But this is a take on a little bit more of a modern version of it, and I'm speaking specifically to the wing. If you look, whether it's now or just a little bit here, at the Zlin Norden wing, it's got a little bit of a Mike Patey taste to it. It is not the Mike Patey wing, but it kind of has that feel to it, right? It has a
kind of going for it there. Okay, sorry. Anyway,
it has slats that extend, I believe, electrically with a linear actuator, and then it kind of has like a Fowler type flap or double flap in the back of it. So it's obviously built specifically for backcountry for STOL, and they're trying to get a little bit high tech with slats and flaps.
So this is interesting. So what makes it exciting? You talked about like Patey, right, with Scrappy and things. Other home built designs with slats, or slats, either have them fixed, right, or they pop out based on airspeed. Is that correct?
Like Just Aircraft, the Super STOL and the Just Aircraft.
So this is controllable from the cockpit.
Correct. Yeah, so this is kind of a different take on that. So like you said, the fixed ones, Just Aircraft has on the Super STOL the ones that pop out as needed, and then this you can kind of dial in, what you want as far as the slats deployment. So I'm really curious to see this in person. I'm going to reach out to the company that's going to be the distributor here in the U.S. and see as soon as I can get out to them. I want to say they're in the Midwest area and go see it for myself. But I think it's a beautiful design. Thomas Hawkland over in Norway, who does the Edge Performance Rotax, kits with the big bore kits and fuel injection systems, and he's also working with Steve Henry in the Yamaha line of engines. He actually ordered one of these for his personal aircraft, and we're going to be seeing that flying really soon. I've been kind of following his progression on that, but yeah, he'll be flying one of these Zlins with Edge Performance products on it. So yeah, that's another interesting option coming up here real soon.
That's really interesting, and part of what is interesting to me, I mean, obviously we were talking about the National STOL stuff, and what I bet because Zlin, they make a bunch of like interesting Cub designs, and one of them, I can't remember the name of it right now. It's like all carbon. It's like the Ultra Cub or something like that. It's like it weighs nothing. The panel you can fly it in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and the panel is
you can fly everything in Microsoft Simulator now.
Well, it was one of the like launch edition planes, but like in that like I'm assuming because that's what the factory wanted it to look like in the game, right? Is like it's got like the carbon fiber panel with like 2 instruments. And it stalls at like 20 miles an hour or something. I've been waiting for. Go ahead.
If you look that up, that's one thing is, interiors are interesting. And if you look up the Zlin Norden and you look at their instrument panel, it has kind of like a very modern sports car or almost motorcycle looking instrument panel to it. And I really like what they've done to it. So that's something that's. Even if you're building a plane and you want some ideas, I remember I copy pasted. I'm like, let me kind of file that away for later, just for some ideas to do. But it's a beautiful design for their instrument panel.
The name of the one I was thinking of is the Shock Ultra.
Shock Ultra, okay. I was going to say Shock Monster, but that's not right. That's the suspension system.
That's yeah. So I mean, here's the thing. I've been waiting to see one of the Zlin aircraft in the National STOL circuit because they seem like they could be super competitive in that zone, and we're not seeing that yet.
Well,
and
maybe this next year, because I think Doug Jackson and Tom Flannery are planning on going far west. They've been kind of staying central and east, and I think next year they're planning on going a little bit further west, which you probably see more of that type of aircraft out west.
That'd be dope. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Zlin, if you're watching, come on the show. Let's talk about the Norden. That's a cool design. And I think it's cool. You joked at the beginning of it. You're like, yet another Cub. but it's cool to see all the innovation, right? We've got Legend makes the MOAC, right? And that was like, felt like an aggressive, like...
There's so many, like, I'm still learning.
Yeah.
It's still like uncut, like Kick Over Iraq, this other Cub manufacturer.
Yeah,
Javron Cub.
Yeah.
Robbie Statnitz's AirTech coatings. He just finished a beautiful Cub. A Javron Cub. Like, what the heck's a Javron Cub? You know? It's just,
yeah, it's just a kit. It's just a kit you buy, right? And you build a Cub. I mean,
somebody else who's making their version of the Cub.
So it's interesting. It's interesting to see everyone kind of do variations on a theme, right? I mean, even the J3 clones, right? They're not true J3 clones anymore. They're maybe like a Super Cub style fuselage. You get a little more shoulder room. Like everyone's kind of taken that idea and modifying. It's still fun to see. I agree that one is like the idea of like the push button or flip a switch or whatever for the slats is. That could be a game changer on that.
I think the Cub is like the Cub followers probably going to hate me for saying this. The Cub might be like the Fiero of the kit car industry because like all the kit cars were based off of the frame of a Fiero, right? I mean, not all of them, but
a lot of them. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Baseline.
I had a buddy in college who had a Fiero.
They were fun cars. I had one.
Yeah. He he tried.
Did they catch fire?
No, it was just he would he'd drop like to women. He'd be like, "Oh, like I got a Fiero," and they'd be like,
"This is a poor man's Ferrari." Yeah.
Yeah, and then he would say like, "Oh, it's like a poor man. It's a poor man's Ferrari. Come on," and they'd be like, "Oh, okay." Anyway, all right. So Zlin, Norden, cool thing. That's number three. I don't know how to do that on your list. What's next on the things you've seen?
Well, shifting gears a little bit of upcoming, is this eVTOL stuff, right? And
yeah.
I'm a bit of a, I don't know, purist when it comes to building. You know, I really like the old style of aluminum or tubular steel and welding and that kind of stuff. But the new way, the future, right? People are probably going to be printing airplanes. Let's just face it. People are probably going to be printing airplanes. Composites have come a long way. There's going to be a lot more composite work. I don't know. That being said, because again, trying to be purist, and I push obviously people working with their hands building airplanes, and I don't want that talent to go away. But some people just don't have the time, and they just want to get to the end quickly, right? But they want something custom, which is why there's so many builder assist places that are popping up. People are just paying people to build their airplane. Well, with these new VTOL aircraft and composite aircraft, you know, it's quite possible that they will be printed in the future. But what it's interesting to me, I follow a lot of like IndyCar racing and Formula One racing early on, and was passionate about that for a while. And a lot of these guys, you see the design style. There's some that are like, you know, people movers. They're designed around like taxi cabs, and they'll be used in intercity. Sure. You've seen those type of eVTOL, but you're also seeing, just to run down a quick list here, of Airspeeder, Jetson, and then the Samad I just found recently. But they have kind of like especially the Airspeeder, but also the Jetson, a Formula One look to it. And if you go back to early like Formula One days, a lot of what we see today in our everyday driver car came from things that were introduced and tested on the racetrack. And that's just the automotive history. You got competition of faster and faster, but also of, you know, better suspensions, and then you got safety. There's so many different things from the racing world that you can pluck from there and put into production. And I believe that this popularity is growing for this. There's so many private companies and individuals getting involved that very quickly, because of that competitive nature, people want the competitive edge, that we may see kits evolve into this, and this will be the next gen form of kits. I'm not sure exactly how to frame that of will you order a kit and you'll just bolt it together and they've got most of it done, like a 51% rule, like it is 49% built, or if in the near future we're going to have the capability of like a CNC shop is going to invest in printing abilities, and you'll buy a program, a software, take it to your local CNC shop, and they'll print you your parts of your airplane. Or I'm thinking that may be the future of experimental aviation. But that being said, battery technology is the biggest thing that's keeping these people, like right now, everybody you talk to, it's like right about if they can get to an hour, they can just get to an hour. And I think a lot of them have, and that's probably staying pretty close to the airport there, because you hear some of these batteries like on a full charge, an hour at this power output, but in reality, if you were to stay at a high level output, you're at like 48 minutes or something. And who wants to run out of fuel or run out of energy when you're away from the airport, right? So when battery tech catches up, these companies, I think, are going to be primed and ready to really hit the market. But like this right here, this is the Jetson, which is a beautiful design. I think it needs to be, the blades need to be encapsulated to some degree in case it hits something that's going to fly right into the body of the fuselage. Other than that, it's a cool design, cool concept. But they are already pushing this, right around $100K for a single seat new tech. Anything that comes to market's going to be expensive, but it's a very, very at 100K for something like that. It's a one percenter's toy. You and I aren't going to be like, yeah, let's go pull out a mortgage for a single seat plane that flies for less than an hour.
No, I mean you could build
so many different aircraft.
Well, yeah, like four. You could build like a really nice, relatively simple vans, or you could build like
two Sonex.
Two Sonex, or like a Zenith and a
yeah.
or like 7 Cassets apparently.
Yeah,
I have no idea. But
so
I just want to point out
closely. In fact, I'm gonna probably talk to the Jetson guys, which we're looking at this right now. They're out of Sweden, and the guy that developed this, I hope to talk to soon. But it's an interesting design, and I really think that it has potential, especially if they got some redundancy with motors. I think they said it could fly with 3, but still, I don't know. What is your take on that? What do you think about what you've seen with these things?
Well, and I'll load up the Samad one. I mean, the Samad one looks cool. Like
I really like the Samad one only because it still has true, flight surfaces, right? So if you do lose something, you actually have a wing, right? You have a tail. So this is for vertical takeoff with the fans, and then you can still fly and maintain control. So this is. I just stumbled across this. That's why I shared it with you this week. And I'm going to reach out to these guys. I believe they're in the UK. Well, the name of Samad, you'd think it's like in India or, Saudi or something.
Oh, there's actually a guy in there. Okay. Yeah.
It's cool. It's a real airplane. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I believe they're based in the UK. So I want to have a conversation with them because this is also a really cool, viable design, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. You asked what I think about this stuff. I mean, obviously, it's super exciting to see because I think we're getting closer to aircraft like this. Like when I grew up watching. You talk about Jetson, right? Like the company name. Well, I grew up watching the Jetsons. Right. On TV, the cartoon for the youngins, and like for me. The idea of like having a flying car is the dream. I took my kids to the EAA museum a couple weeks ago, and there was the old Taylor Aero car. It's been a dream of everybody for a long time, and so, for me, I think it's. I want that. I like the idea of. I live on a little cul-de-sac. Like, it would be so dope to, like, wheel your little 1-seater or 2-seater eVTOL out and fly it over to work and be, I don't know what the infrastructure of that is obviously complicated. Like if you could get it to fit in a standard car size park, isn't it weird how this all works? The size of roads and the size of cars is based on like 2 horses that pulled a cart in Rome or whatever. And now it could be like eVTOL planes are restricted by that same decision centuries ago. But like the idea of like, if I could fly to work, land on like a helipad, and then like somehow move it or taxi it to like a parking spot in a ramp or whatever, like that would be awesome. And I feel like we're headed that way. Obviously, you made the point about the battery tech, huge thing. I also think the traditional pilot in me, like you mentioned the wings and the Samad design, it's like, well, like I wouldn't mind a way to get down. But I'm assuming most of them have ballistic, like BRS, parachutes or something. So
yeah, well, not at the moment, right? Some of them do, but because the way they're experimenting most of these right now is they're trying to stay within the ultralight rules, and they're like the one that we saw. I did a video on that came out at Oshkosh, the Black Fly, like how they were able to get to that weight was they made a fuselage that was buoyant. It can float, right? And for ultralights, you have an allowance for a flotation device. So that bumps your weight up there. And people laugh at it because it landed and kind of tilted over. It's like, why don't they put true landing gear? Which I still ask, why didn't they put true landing gear on it? But it sits down in a hull, like a boat because it is buoyant. They give some extra allowance there. They also had some type of, I don't know if it was a ballistic chute, some type of chute, whether they throw it out by hand or whatnot. There's an allowance for weight for a parachute. So if they can design or install a chute that's less than, then boom, they've got more pounds to put back in. So that's how they're getting away around that. And I believe for testing purposes, because the eVTOL market isn't really, I'm sure the FAA doesn't know what to do with it yet. So they just kind of try to build around that. And I think that we're going to see that change here in the next couple of years once they define what that's going to look like. But I said that to say, because you're talking about the Jetsons and flying around and then the chutes, I believe the altitude and the elevation these will fly at are going to be fairly low. And as you know, a ballistic chute needs time to not only deploy, but also the chute needs to inflate. Right. The chute needs to open, pop.
We're not all going to be flying around with Martin Bakers.
So we need a couple hundred feet for all that to actually work.
Right.
If you pull a chute really low, maybe it'll pop right before you hit the ground. But so that's probably something that they're going to have to figure out in the infrastructure. It reminds me of what I think is was it Back to the Future 2 or 3?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
they had that like sub layer that flying cars flew at. And
that was interesting because I was just talking to, the reason I'm laughing is I was just talking to some friends about this. And I was saying, like my brain goes to Back to the Future, which is interesting though, is they just made the roads in the sky. Like it didn't actually like have the benefit of, what we could do with algorithms and having all the aircraft talk to each other and being able to like dodge each other at different levels and altitudes and everything, right? You could have like infinite clear skies if
floating stop signs.
Right. I mean, I think Just Plain Silly said something up there. He said, I think eVTOL planes are just modern day powered parachutes, man, toy, hobby, not practical travel machines. And I would say I agree now. I agree right now.
Bryan. Their first world problem, Bryan. Yep.
I agree with him now, but I think what's interesting is seeing it 20 years from now, 10 years from now, could be really cool, right? Like, I think that there's some possibility there. I think that the regulations need to get out of the way. Like you're talking about, like, why did they make it float? It's because there's a weird loophole that it can weigh more if it floats, right? Like, the regulations need to get out of the way so we can really, like, push. Kitty Hawk is another brand that's doing that. That was an announcement this year. That was, a couple of years ago. Kitty Hawk has one. I mean, there are a lot of people playing in that space right now, and I think we're going to see it. I will tell you, my fantasy is not necessarily one of those, like a giant multicopter, right? Would be like, a home-built civilian Osprey, but smaller, with the tilt rotor thing, like that.
I agree.
Let's go that way.
That would be cool. But you're probably not going to power that by a Volkswagen that's generating power to electric motors. It's probably going to have to be a jet engine powering the battery for electric motors.
But if it was, so this is interesting. Let's nerd out for a second. I was thinking about it, right? The big challenge with the Osprey is the gearbox, right? Because it's got to be able to have an engine failure and to power both rotors. It's like am I right? The big technology thing is this massive gearbox that can shoot torque everywhere. I don't know. But if you have electric motors, then you can do what they're doing with the Rivian, right? The Rivian electric truck. You can have the 4 motors that are right by the wheels. You don't have to have a transmission or gearbox to have all-wheel drive. Or I don't know. I'm really nerding out now.
Yeah, I follow what you're saying. There's another Osprey-ish Bell. If you all want to Google search Bell aircraft or Bell Aviation, they're developing, is it the V-22? Actually, I want to reach out to them because they're doing some contracts with the Army. And it's a bigger, better one of those aircraft. And they're in Texas, I think. Anyway, they've got some new system like you're talking about for when it tilts forward, the tilt rotor system.
Project 2 Aero says that the Osprey has 5 gearboxes, to be exact. Yeah, it's a lot of gearboxes.
It's a lot of gearboxes. But yes, you're right. You got you don't need a gearbox typically, and you have instant torque, as opposed to our fueled engines. You have a torque ramp range. It's not instant. In fact, I interviewed a guy myself recently that is doing a Zenith conversion about this very thing, where they actually have to set up in the software that has to ramp up, because if they just engage, it'll actually snap the engine mounts, the motor mounts, right off of the airframe. That's that much torque, because it's that quick.
Is that something? And where I can't believe I knew this would be a fun show because we're just nerding out. Is that something that separately you talked about a little bit, but like the electric powertrain thing, right? Like for aircraft, like we saw Pipistrel has I don't remember what it's called. They have a couple different electric aircraft now for training.
The Sinus or the Virus or Sinus or Virus.
Right. They've got like the Alpha Electro or something like that. And then separately, really innovative home builders have been putting electric powertrains into Xenos, a Sonex aircraft, right?
Yeah.
Into Xenos motor gliders. I've seen like a couple of them now are getting modded for electric powertrains that they're pulling off of electric motorcycles. So
that's awesome.
That's awesome and cool. Like, do you see that? I mean, you talked about battery technology, right? But do you see that affecting the home built industry heavily in the next few years?
Yeah, I think more and more people will play with that just because it's a simpler jump. With experimental aviation and building, if you try too many things at one time, you can get yourself into trouble. Unless you're Mike Patey, right? Or multiple things at one time. A new airframe, fuselage, wing, suspension, electrical system, pneumatics, hydraulics. And then if you notice, actually, let me back up a second. Even Mike Patey, hi Mike Patey, if you're watching Ryan's show, he stuck in an engine that was already known to be true and good to him. He took that out of his previous builds, or he bought it back from somebody that he had a previous build from, and stuck it into. So even he went to a known platform that he could trust while he was experimenting with so many other things. So if you're building everything from what they call a clean sheet design, that is a tall order. So it makes perfect sense for people to start off with a known good airframe. You know it flies right. You don't have to re-engineer the flaps or the wing or the control surfaces of that. You know it'll be a good glider if it quits. Let's frame it that way. Let's pick an airframe that'll become a good glider if it quits, and then tinker around with the motor. So some of these companies that are starting with everything clean sheet is a tall order, is expensive, is a lot to tackle all at once. So yes, absolutely. I think we'll see a lot more people shoving electric conversions. It seems a little bit backwards. You've probably seen, I think there's a couple movies out there, and recently I've seen some memes where it's almost sacrilegious of people putting electric motor conversions into old, like 1950s hot rods. Just like, what are you doing? But
well, Ford just released that drop-in electric crate motor.
yeah,
And it was like at SEMA, they're like, hey, everyone with a vintage truck, like, blam, drop this thing and it'll bolt right in. And I was like, I get it. I get the purist in me, right, gets it. But also it's like, well, that's kind of cool, right? Like, it's cool they're doing it. Like, I don't know.
I think it'd be interesting to see what comes of that too. Like, you've probably seen the remake, probably 10 years ago, Speed Racer. I can see some things happening like Speed. Let's have some jump jacks on aircraft. That'll get people into the air in short takeoff or land, wouldn't it?
Well, don't some gyrocopters do that?
Jump jacks?
Some
I think they would break their rotor.
I think there's some that have like some sort of pre-rotator that you can actually like, give them a little. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Okay, a couple things in the chat. Freedom Fixer Flying says I'm pronouncing Pipistrel wrong. I don't know. I'm not from there. Sorry, dude.
That's how we say it.
It's how we're saying it. Nicholas Lambert says Gabriel DeVault, or probably DeVault, has the Xenos, and he used to work at Zero, the electric bike company, so that's why he's building that. That's super cool. IKO4 is schooling everyone in the chat about the Bell tilt rotor program. He says the future vertical lift program at Bell is based on the V280 Valor and the 360 Invictus.
There you go. Yeah, that's awesome.
Those are good names.
Awesome aircraft.
Super, super cool. Also, separately, I guess upstairs now, MKE is gusting to 43 knots. So we're getting windy upstairs. It's getting there. As advertised. The news was saying 100-mile-an-hour winds. We're not there yet. Come at me, bro.
Yeah.
Stay down here. Yeah. We're almost out of time, but I guess I wanted to offer it up. Is there anything else experimental that you're super pumped to see maybe in 2022? Like, what's on the deck for you?
I am personally super pumped about my own personal project that absolutely it must fly in 2022. So that's what I'm excited about. I have almost flipped the switch on my schedule. I'm trying my hardest to work full-time on my project and not part-time on work because I have to work, but flip the attention to detail. I have to. It's not I want to anymore. I have to get my airplane flying. There's some sponsors involved. Just the mere fact that I am pushing so hard to be the experimental go-to guy, and I don't have anything to fly. I spend so much time interviewing people that are building airplanes that I don't have enough time to build airplanes. So, yeah. Be on the lookout. By the end of this year, Experimental Aircraft Channel is going to have an airplane to fly, finally.
And is it going to be a surprise reveal where it's not actually a Zenith? It's like something totally new that no one expects?
No, it's going to be a Zenith. So, I don't have that much time to re-engineer and switch things up like that. It might be a very, very, very unique paint scheme, which I can talk to you another time about off air, that I'm not ready to reveal because I just came across some really cool ideas. I just decided what the thing's going to look like. But other than that,
are you looking at it right now? Is it like sitting in front of you right now?
Why do you say that?
Because you just pointed at it. I hope so. And also, I have one other question for you. The thumbnail for this video, you sent me a picture. That's like a really long drill bit.
Well, thank you.
What? Like, why? Why do you need that long of a drill bit?
Because ironically, no. I'm gonna have to say that differently. There are certain times where No, I'm trying to say this so it's not skewed the wrong way. No, there's certain times you have to get into tight places. And to get into tight places, you have to... All right.
Sometimes you need a long drill bit to get into tight places. I'll just say it for you. It's my show. Don't worry. I'll take the hit.
What? You just set me up for this, didn't you, Ryan?
I know. I didn't. I was just curious. I was just curious why. Because, I mean, it's an epic photo, right? You're kind of like, yeah, I'm going to drill this thing.
And in truth, what I was drilling did not require that drill bit. It was already in the chuck. And I had to drill.
Yeah.
To answer your question, right, if there's an area that's a little bit tight to get into and your drill is too wide, the longer the bit will flex slightly.
Okay.
Right? So, and you can still get a straight hole. So the idea is you get a longer bit and it will flex slightly to get into that area. Or if we get a plane here, right? That's not enough show. As you get further,
make that bigger. Yep.
As you get further away from it, there's more space. So if you have the drill chuck out here, it's going to be rubbing against the metal as you're trying to drill.
Yeah.
If you have the drill chuck out here, it's not going to be scraping the metal as you're trying to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's long. It's long shafted.
That's a. Show's over, guys. It's bedtime for me.
That was Ty Russell. I stole that joke from him in the chat, but I
maintain rated E for everyone. So if
we did our best.
For everyone.
We did our best.
And on that note,
no, okay. Do you want to? I don't even really have anything prepared, but you want to try to play? We could play some short final, real quick
final.
before. Remember, did we do this last time you were on, or no?
Yeah. Short
we
final.
did this, right? So we can't. I can't.
When you're on short final and you're 172, you are at 75 knots.
Well, yeah, 70 is what I do because I don't fly very much.
Okay.
A little extra speed for
You
confidence.
go.
Float it longer down. Let's start a whole new debate. Float it a little bit further down the runway.
You're that guy.
But you got to ease that back. I think, like I did my BFR. We were, 50 something. And I was like, blah, blah. Scary. All right, we're gonna
get a pre-roll of your sound effects to use on my channel.
Yeah, there you go. You can steal that one and use it whenever.
I want to get the sound effect that whatever you were doing when you did the newest thumbnail you've got, riding in the Cub. You're like, or whatever it is that the thumbnail you've got right now. You had to be making some noise.
Like one of those.
Yeah, something.
It's like that.
That's what you can do that with your mouth?
Nope. All right, here we go. We're gonna play short final. We'll wrap it up. Bryan, this has been fun. I've loved nerding out with you. That's what I knew it. We were hanging around drinking beers at in Lakeland, and I was like, okay, we're gonna nerd out about airplanes on the show. All right, here we go. We're gonna make up some questions on the fly. Bryan Walstrom, Experimental Aircraft Challenge, short final. First, what airplane should I build?
Oh, jeez, come on now. You should build the RV-15 because nobody knows what it looks like. That's what you should build.
All right, done. I'll make it happen. What about? Let's talk about this. Your next airplane. You mentioned a couple. What's your next airplane that you're going to build? You're going to finish Zenith, and you're going to build what?
It's probably going to be an RV-15 or a Spacewalker.
Okay. All right. I don't know if I asked you this last time, but in the last year, favorite aviation adventure you've had in the last year?
My favorite aviation adventure. Oshkosh.
It was great to be back.
Yes.
It was great to be back. I hugged a lot of people.
Yes.
I hugged a lot of people, and I shook a lot of hands.
That's right.
And it felt good. It felt good to be near my people. Let's put it that way.
Hashtag aviation family.
I call around here. I say hashtag SkyFam.
Okay.
Sky fam. It's all my Sky fam. So anyway, Bryan, thank you, man. Yeah, you're doing it.
We're having fun. We're having fun, aren't we?
Here's the thing. I gotta say, people haven't seen you. Like, your branding game is so strong. Like, the truck, your truck's got it on it. Like, your branding, your experimental aircraft channel is like the branding.
My 3-year-old stinky hat. I need to brand this. That's what I need to brand, right? I got a 3-year-old stinky hat. It's been signed. You'd have a few more people sign it, and I'll probably auction it off for my charity to finish my airplane or something.
There you go. Awesome. Well, dude, thank you so much for being on the show today. The power held out. It
didn't even blink. No glitches. Nothing.
No, it's been great.
No brownouts.
No, knock on wood.
You must have backup generators there because this happens to you all the time out there.
Right. Yeah. We do lose power a lot where I live, which is weird. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for watching tonight with Bryan. There he is. He's over there with Bryan. I didn't say it at the top of the show, but if you're still here, like, subscribe, share this channel and the show tonight. If you're into experimental aviation in particular, go check out Bryan's stuff. Experimental Aviation channel on YouTube, Facebook, anywhere else, Instagram, all the places.
Yeah. Where am I going to see you next? Because you were the voice. Everybody, if you haven't realized or not, Ryan. Well, if I could reach over to Wisconsin, it didn't work.
Oh, I should have. I could have. Wait, I can. Wrong side.
Or Michael.
Here, hang on. Let me.
No, other direction. Well, come on.
Yeah. Are we ETing? We're ETing?
Right rudder. Oh, there we go. He is the voice of National Stole. He is the voice.
As of right now. So
where am I going to see you next? What's your next gig?
I don't. Well, so the rest of the
Arizona?
2022 season is in. They're confirming the locations now. So and the dates. So I don't know exactly where you'll see me next. There's some stuff in the works. So yeah, we'll see. And this is not me being coy. I legit don't know. I know they're still planning the rest of the season out. So we'll see. I mean, I'm personally hoping for Sun and Fun. I'm hoping for, I know Swamp Stole's a thing in March. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make that one because I think taking the family down on a vacation. So that one might not be a go for me. But yeah, the rest of the season's coming together. And hopefully there'll be some stuff sooner. And hopefully I can go to all of those. So yeah, not being coy. Just legit don't know yet. But I'll be around.
Seeing you again.
Salvatore in the chat says, ooh, tip to tip. No, it's a family show, Salvatore. I'm pronouncing that right? Probably not. If I can't pronounce Pipistrel, probably not pronouncing that right. Anyway. Bryan, thanks for coming on the show. Yeah, there we go. Yeah,
high five.
Why can't I do it with the... Yeah, it's hard. Okay, anyway. Thank you so much, everybody else, for being in the chat, for hanging out with us tonight, talking experimental aviation. We loved having you. I say it every week. Wednesdays are the highlight of my week, hanging out with my Sky fam. Be sure to check out Bryan's stuff. He gets into a lot of amazing, like, behind the scenes and how all your favorite
stuff.
Yeah, experimental stuff, but like behind the scenes and how they're built. He's in factories. He's all over the place. So be sure to go check that out. And be sure to tune in next week for the SuperAero Holiday Extravaganza. I don't know exactly what it's going to be. Probably won't drink as much eggnog as I did last year, though, because that was a little sketch.
You gonna go buy a tree? Are you gonna go burn a tree? Are you gonna do some family outing live? That's what you should do. You should go live on location at the local Wisconsin something, and yeah.
No, there's going to be an ugly sweater. There'll be some eggnog, and we'll talk. We'll talk airplanes and holidays. It's going to be good. Anybody,
sounds good.
And then this, yeah, like after the show, I have to go do this for my kids. I got to go. This is a chocolate one. I have to go hide this somewhere for them. Don't watch this, kids. That Elves are real. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week on Super Aero Live. Bryan, thanks again, buddy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.